recording how to actually pick up the temperature sensor from a machine. So let's start off with the program, right? So the temperature sensor is on board on Pico, Raspberry Pi Pico. Let me actually explain to you where the temperature sensor actually is going to come from. If you look at it, you will see that there are four ADC controller. As you see here, this one. Let me actually do this. This is ADC controller, right? And these are the ADC controller. One is obviously ADC GND, and the rest are the four ADC controllers. And they are obviously connected to different respective GPUs, you know. And there's one ADC controller which is basically connected to the temperature sensor on board Raspberry Pi temperature sensor. And that is ADC4. So when we write the code, we need to access ADC4 in the code. So let's start off with the coding. And obviously we start with the machine and import the pin and also ADC, because we need to use ADC with the pin, right? The next thing we need to do is also import time, because we want to put a delay there. So that's why we need to put a time. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to define a function called temperature like this, so that we can write everything under the function. And first thing first, we make the temperature, make the machine sleep for 500 milliseconds, right? You can go for milliseconds or you can go for seconds. It is fine. And then we get the ADC readings from the machine on, like I said, there's the ADC analog to digital converter pin 4 where the temperature sensor is, and that's why we need to say ADC is equal to machine dot ADC4, because you're going to get the temperature reading. But when you get the temperature reading, those are going to be in terms of voltage. So what you want to do is you want to sort of define a variable called we can call it a ADCV, right? Just to say it's a voltage, and then we say ADC dot read underscore u16. Now this read underscore u16 is a function that's basically going to return to you the analog to digital conversion, and read u16 return an integer value between 0 to 65,536. Now that is the reading. This function which I'm highlighting is going to return you, because it's an analog reading and you are converting it to digitals, and you need a number between 0 and 65,000. So this is going to do the conversion for you. You don't have to worry about it. Since this is a voltage that you get between 0 to 3.3 voltage, and that's why you need to multiply it with 3.3 and divide it with this analog number, this digital number, which is 65,336, because this function is going to return you a value between this 65,536 and I'll do this, right? And that's why you need to divide it by this, and the voltage that you receive from ADC is between 0 to 3.3 voltage. So that's why you multiply 0.3 divided by this, and whatever the reading you get, it will give you ADC voltage in numbers. So that's what you need. You don't need to go into more detail of this. You just need to know that you will get a voltage in numbers. And once you get the voltage in number, next thing you need to do is you need to convert that voltage into temperature. I would say Celsius, right? Okay, Celsius in temperature. And for that you need to have a formula in place which is 27 minus ADC voltage, right? ADC underscore V, right? And you minus it with 0.706, right? And then you divide it by simply 0.001721, right? So that's the basic formula. You just need to remember it by heart, that once you get the ADC voltage in numbers by calling this ADC U16 function and then multiply by 3.3 and divided by this, and this is why I explained you why. And I also explained you where you're going to get this voltage is from ADC4 controller, where your actually onboard temperature sensor is on the Raspberry Pi Pico. And once you have that, then you just need to remember this formula, and this will give you actually the temperature in Celsius, this formula, right? So you just need to remember that by heart so that you can write it, right? And then obviously you also need a temperature in Fahrenheit. So I'll give you a temperature formula in Fahrenheit, and I'm just gonna keep it FAHRENHEIT, Fahrenheit. Okay, and that is basically 32. Okay, plus then you this is the same, similarly another formula, right, which you need to remember. So first you need to get a temperature in Celsius, then you do 32 plus 1.8 multiplied by temperature in Celsius, right? Celsius, right? So basically the temperature you got here, this temperature in Celsius, you multiply it with 1.8 and add it into 32, and that gives you a temperature in Fahrenheit. So it's important that you convert temperature in Celsius before you convert it into Fahrenheit temperature, right? And now since you have these two, so I would say let's add them into a string, right? So we do \n so that every time string get printed, it prints on the next line, and we say temperature. Okay, and then we just want to do is we're gonna do the plus sign, and we can, because it's an integer value, so that's why we need to convert into a string, the Celsius, right? And then you wanna add, and maybe you wanna sort of like, you know, put there I think you wanna say degree, isn't it? C, yeah, Celsius, that stands for Celsius, or you can put the whole Celsius there as well if you wanna say Celsius. Okay, you can say that, right? And then you wanna do is add temperature in Fahrenheit, and there's another Fahrenheit, this is again you need to convert into str, okay, the Fahrenheit one, and temp underscore Fahrenheit, okay, and then you wanna do add plus sign, and here you wanna, maybe I will put just Fahrenheit, or I'll just put Fahrenheit. Okay, that means that temperature is in Fahrenheit. Now when we do this, then we can just call this function, and we can do return as. So when we call this function, it will return us as, right? So this is a function, and let's say we call this function here, we use the while loop, right? While true, so because this is infinite loop, while true, and we want to print this function, we just call temp, okay, and instead of we just simply print temp, because when we call the temp, it will return us this as, you know, this as is a string which will return us when we call this function, and we directly print it when we call it, and it will print here on the screen the values. Okay, so that's how. Well, let's basically first save this one on the Raspberry Pi. So we're gonna call it temp. I call it temp. Okay, and that, when you do that, so you see here on the Raspberry Pi, my file is saved as temp.py, as you see here. I'm highlighting in red color. Now it's saved on Raspberry Pi Pico. So let's basically go move on to the next step and print it. Okay, here we go. Oh no. Okay. Okay, what is the indentation doesn't match to the outer indentation level. Okay, no problem. So we need to basically look into the indentation issue here, and it's a line 10, right? So line 10 is this one, return as. Okay, it looks like we have an indentation issue where this needs to match here, like this, right? The while has to start from the, like, you know, indentation is very important in Python. So if you look at this whole thing has to be like this, right? Indentation has to be properly done. So if we do it now, it should not give us an error. Here we go. Oh, now this is a different error. Isn't defined. ADVV isn't defined. So this is ADVV. okay, under ADC, and this is ADV. So that sometimes you misspell it and you get an error, so you need to get it exactly right. So I change the spelling. Okay, and finally temperature Fahrenheit is interval. That's another. That's why I always suggest that you keep small short spelling, because you often gonna mess up. So I'm gonna remove this FAH so that I don't make any mistakes when I'm spelling it, right? So my spellings are terrible, so I usually make mistakes. Here we go, temp S. So that way we could just keep it simple, right? Here we go. There we go. See, it started displaying the, look at this. This is where it's displaying your temperature. Okay, conversion into Fahrenheit as well as into Celsius, right? This is what we did. So now, since you have this temperature sensor picked up from your Raspberry Pi Pico, next thing you want to do is you want to save that into a file on Pico, right? You don't want to just print it, because when you're printing it, the moment you stop it, it just disappears. You see here? You lose all the temperature readings, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to pick up all the temperature reading and save it into a file. And what you need to do here is, here you just put here, open a file, okay, and say open. Here we go. Yes, I'm in a classroom. You can see that, right? Temp file. You can hear that actually, not see that. Okay. Temp file dot text. Okay. And here you have a as an sort of like, you know, append mod, because you want to open a file in append mod, temp.txt. Okay. See, there's no temp.txt here, right? As you see here. The moment I will run this, the temp.txt will appear here at the end probably, or I think in alphabetical order, this. And then I will have it basically not printed it. I open it. Next thing I want to do is, instead of printing under the screen, I want to say f.write, okay, and I want to write that into the file, right? So this temp is being called same way as I called it with the print, but this time I'm calling it within the write, so it writes into this file, whatever the temperature values are, okay. Once it's written, you need to close the file, otherwise it will not save, right? Now, we have now created the file, the temperature reading will be saved there, but what we want to do is we want to also print the reading from the file. So reading gets saved and you want to print here, see it here on the screen as well, like this here, right? Like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again do f is equal to open, because now you have closed the file, so to read it you have to open it again. And this time you don't need to open it into append mod, because you can just simply say read.x and you don't need to do anything else. Let me slightly move it down so that you can see some code. Here we go. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to print like this. We want to say f.read. Whatever you're reading from the file, it will print on the screen, right? So it reads the file, it prints on the screen. So you see here, we open the file in A mod. Why? Because we want to write in it, right? Here. Okay, when you write it, you either open in A mod, append mod, which means whatever is written there will remain there, and it will be, new text will be added at the end of the file. Or if you put a W, it means every time it will completely replace whatever is in the file. And if you want to learn more about that, read watch a video on filing. I have a video on filing as well. This one here is opening in simply to read it, right? So not in append mod, so that's why I didn't put a mod here while I'm reading the file, right? You see here, no A mod, because I'm reading it. So I open it. So there are 3 steps, right? The steps are open a file, right? Always open a file, write into a file, and close a file. Okay, that's in append mod you open it. And then you want to read it, open it, and read it. And I'm printing it on the screen, so whatever is in the file will be printed here. So let's run it and see it, right? The first thing I told you, when you run this program, this file will be created here on the Raspberry Pi Pico itself, right? So let's first check that. Here we go. See here, it's printing, but when I stop it, you will see it here. Now it's printing my temperature. So let's stop this one and see what has it done. You see here, temperature dot, this file appears here. The moment I stop it, the file appears here, right? So I can go into this file and I can see what is in there. You see here, this file is opened here in front of me. So all the temperature readings are now saved here, right? And those were also being printed directly on the screen as well here. See, every time you open the file and print the whole reading. So this is how you save and store a temperature reading. You write a program, right? Write a program. This is where you wrote a program, okay? And then you call that program to the, instead of printing on the screen, you are calling it to store into a file, which is basically this file here, created on the Raspberry Pi. Pico, I hope you liked it. And now there's so many things you can do with this by calling the string functions, and you can, for example, store the temperature for 1 year, and then you can come back and see. And you can also basically do a temperature with the date as well, right? So let's see if we can actually save a date with the temperature. We'll do that another video for this one, but not this one. So let's stop this one here. Yeah.